Good morning to all members of the media, to the honorable ministers, the executives from various government departments. We take this opportunity to introduce the ministers and the executives who are leading the multidisciplinary team that is responsible to address the foodborne illnesses and illicit trade in the country. Let me take this opportunity first to introduce Minister SABC, who is the Minister of COGTA, who's going to be leading us in delivering the media statement. We are also having Minister Motsoaledi, the Minister of Health in the country. We also joined by several Director General Mbulelo Changana from the Department of COGTA. We also have Director General of the Department of Small Business Development, Ms. Thuli Manzini. We also joined by Ms. Aneliswa Cele from the Department of Health, who is responsible for the environmental health and port health services. Members of the media and the public, let us welcome Minister SABC, who's going to be taking the media through the progress in the implementation of the action plan that was approved by the Cabinet in addressing the foodborne illnesses and illicit trade. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Acting DDG. Greetings to the Honorable Minister Motsoaledi, all the senior government department managers that has been introduced. Greetings to the members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I want to greet you this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning as we provide an update regarding our work in implementing the action plan to address the challenges arising from the foodborne illnesses. In the address to the nation on the 15th of November 2024, following the death of children due to foodborne illnesses, amongst measures adopted by the government, the President Ramaphosa, outlined a key compliance intervention on the regulation of spaza shops and all other food handling outlets. The President directed that all spaza shops and other food handling facilities must be registered within the municipalities in which they operate within 21 days from the date of his address, and that any shop that is not registered within 21 days and does not meet all health standard and requirement must be closed. The 21-day period directed by the President for registering all spaza shops and other food handling outlets ended yesterday, 17 December 2024. The government needs to do more work to ensure that the sector is properly regulated and adheres to health regulations. The government understands the concerns raised by some stakeholders regarding the registration deadlines for spaza shops and other food handling outlets. However, it must be noted that the initial deadline was set to address the urgent need to ensure compliance with health and safety standards following the tragic incident of foodborne illnesses. Registration ensures that all spaza shops and food handling outlets meet minimum standards regardless of their past operations. in consideration whether or not to extend the registration deadline, the government considers its commitment to supporting small businesses, prioritizing health and safety, ensuring inclusivity and fairness, and maintaining its integrity. The municipal processes of adopting and adapting the bylaws as gazetted by Minister of Culture on the 7th of November 2024 are highly regulated and need a lot of consultation to complete. Nevertheless, a lot of work has been done over the 21 days of registration period, and as a result, the following has been achieved. Throughout South Africa, 392 registration centers were established in all 9 provinces, and 42,915 applications were received between 15 November and yesterday to be processed for people applying to operate spaza shops and other food handling outlets. Out of the 49,915 applications, 19,385 has been approved. We regard this as a considerable progress over a period of 21 days, and a breakdown is going to be shared with the media in terms of each province, how many centers of registration, how many applications were received, and how many were approved per each province, as I want to indicate that 19,386 applications have been approved. Noting the progress of work done above, in consultation with the President, therefore, the government has resolved to extend the registration deadline for all spaza shops and other food handling outlets to 28 February 2025. Prior to the revised deadline of 28 February 2025, the government in all its spheres will continue to implement the action plan to address the crisis of foodborne illnesses and the illicit trade of goods across the country. Those who have registered their businesses and have duly received their acknowledgement of registration still need to undertake a further process to obtain their trading licenses. For this process, the environmental health practitioners and other regulatory authorities will still inspect owners of registered food-related trading businesses to ensure that their businesses are eligible to trade. Notwithstanding the holiday scaling down of operations, municipalities must still reserve capacity to assist those who will be registering. We also urge business owners to continue with their registration process within their respective municipalities and not wait until the next registration deadline. It is essential to explain that the end of this period does not mean that the process is over. A lot still needs to happen for those who have registered their businesses and others who still need to do so. As the multidisciplinary team dealing with this outbreak, we will continue our efforts to ensure that all food handling facilities, including manufacturers, comply with business and health regulatory requirements. We need to explain that we are dealing with two distinct processes. The first process is business compliance, where you need to register the spaza shops or any food handling business. The second process is compliance with health regulation. This second process does not depend on whether you are registered or not. If you don't comply with health regulation, the business is closed down immediately, whether registered or not yet registered. That is the message we want to convey across. As a result, 1,041 spaza shops and food handling outlets have been closed down, having not been registered simply because they were not complying to health regulations. We are aware of some who have encountered obstacles not of their own making, preventing them from complying with the 21-day registration period. We will therefore like to take this opportunity to thank all those who have taken time to register their business. This was an essential step in ensuring that these businesses uphold the dignity and protect the human lives of the public they serve, from which they derive their livelihoods. We are, however, also aware that others have just stayed away and ignored the directive to register their businesses. We want to warn that people must register their businesses and subject these to health compliance inspections. Thus far, the government's multidisciplinary response and intervention to this outbreak have helped keep the immediate threat and focus on addressing weaknesses in the regulatory environment. I want to highlight the progress that has also been done as a further step under health intervention. The appointment of 15 health experts to the Ministerial Advisory Committee has now been finalized. This committee will develop medium to long-term prevention measures to cap the incidence of foodborne illnesses in the country. A statement from the Department of Health has been issued with all the names of the members of this panel. The statement can be obtained from the website of the Department of Health at www.health.gov.za. When it comes to enforcement and compliance, the multidisciplinary enforcement teams have been on the ground conducting door-to-door compliance checks, intelligence-led operations on warehouses and supermarkets and other food handlers, closures of non-compliant premises, and confiscation of non-compliant or illegal goods. Inspections of imported food items, medicines, drugs, and pesticides have also been intensified at ports of entry. Heightened surveillance at all 71 ports of entry, especially marine ports in KwaZulu-Natal, including Durban, is aimed at preventing the entry of unsafe goods. Recently, 470 liters of pesticides were seized at a bonded warehouse and denied entry into the country. A collaborative operational plan involving SARS Customs, the Border Management Authority, and the Department of Agriculture will be rolled out during the festive season. The plan will target high-risk activities and strengthen enforcement. Joint law enforcement operations underscore the government's ongoing commitment to safeguarding public health and ensuring food safety, particularly during this busy festive period. When it comes to public education and awareness, one of the most important initiatives we have undertaken is the rollout of a public education and awareness campaign aimed at children at school-going age, teachers and their parents, which was very active during the time when schools were still open. It is important that we intensify this campaign, especially during this busy festive season and in preparation for the opening of schools in early January. The messages of food safety and the dangers of pesticides in domestic environments are quite critical in reducing the risk of infections and food contamination. We call on all our civil society and business partners to amplify these important messages and help educate our community on food safety. As I conclude, during this period, we have learned valuable lessons in a short space of time, especially regarding the need for strengthened enforcement on regulation on spaza shops and other small food handling outlets. We want to emphasize that registration alone does not mean a business is eligible to trade. To obtain a license or a permit to trade, business owners must comply with all health regulations and municipal bylaws related to conducting a business. Together, working together, we can build a safer, healthier, and more equitable food ecosystem for all the people of South Africa. I do want to close by thanking all our municipalities, all our provinces for heeding the call by the President to ensure that we save the nation. We further urge them to do so up until the end of February so that we create a safer community. I do want to place on record, though, we heard that there was an extension that was done either Western Cape or the city of Cape Town. It could not have been valid up until the President has allowed the extension. South Africa is one country and is led by the Government of National Unity. There is no municipality nor any province that can deviate on its own. I think that should be on record, that any other extension was irrelevant and invalid up until this extension that is being announced in this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Hlabisa. We're now going to be taking questions. We will start in the room. The order is you introduce yourself, the media house you represent, and then you can ask the question. Okay, I note you, Celine. Any other? Okay, it seems there's one for so long. You can take it, Celine.
I noticed that you have applauded the work that's being done in terms of the registration of the sponsor shops, but I think when I was listening to the President's speech when he announced the deadline, was the issue around the filth in municipalities. Our townships are dirty, there's no garbage collection, and the reason why we've got pesticides now in our streets is because people are trying to tackle rodents, etc. What kind of work is being done there? How are municipalities being held accountable for the filth in our townships, which has of course led to a number of these tragedies and this particular action plan? Also, I would have loved to see the Agriculture Minister to speak about the investigations about how these pesticides actually have, gotten into the townships, because these are highly poisonous and should not be so easily available. If anybody can respond to that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much, Linda. Yes, we can have this.
Valen for SABC News. I have two questions. One of those is, Minister, you have heralded the work of SARS Customs together with other officials regarding the efforts to prevent certain contaminated goods from entering through the harbours. Are you able to indicate what pesticide this was? Was it the turboforce that has been mentioned previously? And also, with regards to the registration process, there have been complaints and we have seen some friction between South Africans and residents really, where there are those who have been accused of registering on behalf of those who are in the country unlawfully without the necessary documents required to be in the country. What sort of consequences are we likely to see in that regard?
Okay, thank you, Madam.
Veronica Mafari here from Newsroom Africa. I think, Minister, just an update on the classification that was done by the National Disaster Management Center on the issue of classifying as foodborne illnesses that we've been seeing as a national disaster. An update on that, please. And then, of course, as well on the issue of the extension of the deadline. Just as government, what were some of the issues that you were seeing? Of course, we had numerous concerns on the ground. Issues about some of the registration centers closing down because there's no water, them not having forms. Just from a government perspective, how has that process been for you? And perhaps maybe just a bit of clarification on the fact that once these buzzer shops are registered, does that mean that they cannot trade if they don't have trading license? What is the next step? You're saying that there is still quite a lot of process that needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I think those are the only questions in the room. Dagalani, can you help us with the online questions? Yes, Dagalani.
Thank you, PG. So far, we only have one question from the donor who is representing the full view. And the question is, the climate change is also predicted to impact food safety in a range of direct and indirect ways, putting particularly children's health at risk. And the question is, has government looked into this matter as well? Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dagalani. I think I will start by Minister Motsoaledi, who will come and assist us with some of the questions, and then we will move to other.
Thank you very much. I think the question really that directly impacts on health is this last one on climate change, which, as you know, It's a very complex subject around the country, around the world, not the country. But we know by now that the people who will suffer the most because of climate change, I mean the department or the area of life that will suffer the most more than others is health. And as such, all over the world, we are preparing for this eventuality, where we'll likely to have a lot of pandemics stemming from three processes. Firstly, this climate change, as we say, we don't know what type of new organisms will come by and what complications will there be, but we know there will be, so we're preparing for that. The second one is the issue of what is called antimicrobial resistance, where when people are sick, the antibiotics with which they used to be treated and get well in the past are now starting to be resistant, and they don't easily die, so it may bring some pandemics. The third one is the issue of habitat. Human beings all over the world are starting to encroach on the habitat of other organisms. That's why we are having zoonotics like monkeypox, for instance, or mpox rather. Now, for this reason, there's a team, as I'm speaking, which has been working around the clock in Geneva, an international team that is working on pandemic preparedness. If all these factors I've mentioned, including climate change, bring some changes in our lives, how should we respond? And that team is likely to complete their work early next year, where all ministers of health will be called to Geneva to come and adopt the work they've done. It's called pandemic preparedness, because we don't know what pandemic is coming, but we believe very soon it will come, particularly because of these factors, including climate change. So it also affects us in the similar way. The other questions, I think the minister will solve, but maybe the issue of stopping some liters of pesticides at the borders, I think that answer will get from agriculture, which unfortunately are not here. I understand they are busy investigating and even doing the test as to exactly whether it's taper force or what. But you may remember that the Minister of Agriculture in our previous press conference did mention that out of the 5 manufacturers of this organophosphate called Tabufos, which they have inspected and tested the Tabufos, they reached the conclusion that it must be coming from outside the country because it was not similar to the one that is manufactured by the 5 companies. And the minister specifically mentioned the port of Durban. That's why there's a lot of activity and concentration and even intelligence directed operations against the port of Durban, where we believe some of these chemicals might be going through. Now that they've been confiscated, the test need to confirm exactly what it is, otherwise we'll give you wrong information. There was a question about people who enter the country legally, which obviously can be answered by Home Affairs. We do have a Home Affairs official here, the acting DDG for immigration. Mr. Matsaung, where are you sitting? Yeah, okay. There he is. He's not in front. If there's any complication in this question, we might have to call him to answer. But the simple fact, because I worked in Home Affairs, I still remember. I haven't yet forgotten the processes. If you are found illegal in the country, there's no other way to deal with you except a process of deportation. Unless you can prove that you have got some right to be in the country, you are only illegal because the department might have committed mistake of not giving you documents. There is a very wrong perception that everybody who enters South Africa, if they don't have any documents, then it's Home Affairs' fault which need them documents. Many of them don't deserve the documents because there's no reason that they are here. Just to give you a very simple simple explanation. Do you expect anybody who's a Zama to come and look for documents, or do you expect him when he go to Home Affairs that he'll receive any documents? Because on what grounds will they be giving those documents? So anybody at the end of this process who is found not to have any documentation whatsoever, it means it's illegal. And the test is very simple for those who are not well versed with Home Affairs issues. We have got 3 databases in the country. The National Population Register. Anybody who ever took a birth certificate, anybody who ever took an ID, anybody who ever took a passport, anybody who ever got married, even those who died and obtained death certificates, all of them you'll find on the National Population Register. You just have to press and it will show itself there. The second database we have got is for immigration, National Immigration Information System, or NIIS. Anybody who entered South Africa for whatever reason and announced their entry in the country by visiting one of the 5 refugee reception centers. Once you arrive there and they write your name, you will appear on the NIIS, National Immigration Information System. It means you are legal because you announced yourself and your name will be on that database. The last one is called VAS, Visa Adjudication System. Anybody who applied for any of the 17 visas to enter South Africa and this visa is awarded will be found on VAS. If you are not found on the National Population Register, you are not found on the NIIS, you are not found on VAS, it's automatic, you are illegal, simple. There's no other explanation, and Home Affairs will have to deal with you in that manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Motsoaledi. We will call upon Minister Hlabisa to respond to some of the questions.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the question by Newsroom Africa on the update on classification. Well, all I can say, the classification still stands, that the outbreak is classified as a national disaster, and all regulations applicable are active to ensure that we clamp down the crisis we are facing through the processes we are doing. We did indicate that we could not move to a stage of a declaration, because you only move to a state of declaration when you need extra regulations and extra efforts to deal with the crisis. You only move to declaration where you have to mobilize extra resources financially. So now, as it stands, we are quite satisfied that the classification was enough to deal with the challenge. Unless there is a particular matter my sister wants to know on the issue of classification, we can come more clearer on it. Now, there was a question also from Newsroom Africa. After registration, what next? Are you able to trade or not? Once you have registered, you are able to trade, because after registration, the next process must kick in. There must be a verification process. Where is the business operating? Because you only submit an application, and then there will be a verification. The business will be visited and be checked whether it complies with all requirements in terms of the municipality and also with the health standards. Once the officials are satisfied, you are still operating. Then they will give you the necessary paperwork. Sometimes they give you the certificate which allows you to operate officially or eventually grant the business license, and then you operate fully and officially. But now when verification is done, the application having been approved, and they find that you do not comply, some of the information you gave in the application was not correct, then you will be forced to be shut down. And if it is health matters, immediately the business will be shut down. I think I can go to that question to that extent. And the second one was on the question of what lessons did we learn out of the process, still from Newsroom Africa. We learned a lot. One issue is that we need to prioritize cleanliness, all of us as a country. I'm sure even if we can go to COVID-19, COVID-19 was a crisis, but we also learned lessons out of the COVID-19, which we still comply, those who really takes life more seriously. Even in this case, when we come back in January, because it may not be feasible now as we are in the mid of festive season, we will embark on a massive ongoing cleaning campaign which will have to remain a permanent feature of South Africa. It will be massive in all municipalities. The issues of being dirty in terms of our streets, in terms of our waste centers, is going to be a major priority and become a permanent feature to ensure that we keep our environments clean. And this will be an initiative that must be driven by everybody. Every member of the community will have to participate in the cleaning campaign. That is one lesson we learned. Minister Mswaleti responded on the question regarding the investigation by Minister Steenhuisen. It is work in progress. Once the report is available, it will be communicated accordingly. SABC Mbalenhle wanted to know what exactly was confiscated at ports of entry. Some are illicit goods, and I'm sure we will agree some of the information is classified information which cannot be handled recklessly. But the point is, all our law enforcing agencies are at work to ensure that we are vigilant to check anything that is illegal or illicit that is getting into South Africa, that it will never get a way to come in. The question of what are the consequences on fronting? The update report that we will give next time, as we said, the registered currently spaza shop and food handling outlets is 19,386. Next time, we want to give figures. How many spaza shops or food handling outlets registered by foreign nationals? We have assigned our teams throughout all provinces that we want figures now, which are going to be very specific, so that we know if we have 10 businesses as spaza shop or food handling outlets applied and registered, approved, belonging to the foreign nationals, which are those? Do those foreign nationals comply to the requirements to participate in such business? If there is none, there shall be no spaza shop or food handling outlet that will be run by a foreign national. That is where then fronting will not have a space, because for a South African who will register for a spaza shop or a food handling outlet and then allow a foreign national to run it, if it is not a foreign national who applied, met the requirements and got approved, it can't operate. The immediate consequence, if it is found there was fronting, is shut down immediately. That is a direct answer to that question. The question from Newsroom Africa was, what processes follow? Oh, I think I've done that one. Oh, yeah. Then we have covered the question, unless if we have missed anyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ministers. We will now get the last round of questions. If there are any in the room, just the last round, I think there's Mbalenhle, there's Lindelo. In that order, we'll start with Mbalenhle, then come to Slindelo.
Now, ever since the announcement of the 21-day registration process, we have seen an uptick in the number of raids as well as health professionals going into shops to ensure that, to perform raids and to ensure that, health and safety standards are complied to. My question is, why did it have to take a crisis such as the loss of life before these things were carried out by the health officials? And are we going to see this continue after, or regular inspections after the registration process has been concluded? And who do we hold accountable for what has happened and the growth of the spaza shops in South Africa? Also, with regards to this second question, with regards to, are we going to see quotas as to, like we see in the river, where we cap a number of shops to be owned by South Africans, and maybe a smaller number being owned by foreign nationals? I think that is clear.
Thank you, Mbalenhle. We'll now move to Slindelo.
Thank you. Just lastly on my part, if you could just get an update in terms of the numbers of the death tolls from the last briefing, where we are now, have there been any new cases? And then I do see Lieutenant General Msikili in the room. I'm not sure if he can come down and just give us an update in terms of criminal investigations. I mean, people died. So what kind of investigations are actually happening in terms of the SABC? And then lastly, I do understand you've extended the deadline, but from what we're hearing on the ground from spaza shop owners, it doesn't seem government really has the capacity to really complete this in the time frame that you are giving yourselves, because like you also said, this is just the application for registration. Then there are a number of processes that need to unfold after that, health inspections, etc., etc. Spaza shop owners have said that they simply cannot afford to close down and wait for this completion of the process. So, are you building capacity? Are you really certain you're going to be able to complete this by the by February 2025, or are we going to see another extension possibly? Thank you.
Thank you, Lindelo. You have a follow-up question, Mbalenhle? Okay. But this is the last round, so if you miss this one, okay. Online, Tagalan?
Thank you, DG. We have a question from Nelson representing Lady News in Northwest. The question is, how is the relationship between local government and traditional leaders regarding spaza shops and registration in villages, considering that bylaws are not consistently implemented compared to traditional laws, and additionally, how are they collaborating on resolving matters? And we also have two questions from Arthur from HFM in Cape Town. The first one is directed to Proctor, and the question is, can you share the breakdown of the number of applications approved by provinces? And the second one is directed to Health. The question is, it's alleged that the National Department of Health issued a notice in February this year that it would discontinue the training of environmental health practitioners due to budget cuts. And the question is, doesn't this going to affect the inspections of spaza shops? Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dagalan. I think we will handle it this way. We'll start with DDG Matsaong, just as an emphasis in terms of South Africans assisting or enabling illegal foreigners. Then will be followed by General Mosigidi, who will talk to the issues of the criminal investigations as queried by Slindelo, and then an emphasis on law enforcement agencies as well. And then we'll take the ministers thereafter.
Thank you very much. I think one is the question on the right to trade. I think on that one, Section 22 of the Constitution is very clear that the right to trade is not extended. It's the right only for citizens. That is the first one. The second one is on the issue of the people that tends to assist those who do not deserve to operate this kind of businesses. Section 42 of the Immigration Act is very clear that no one should aid, no one should assist, no one should provide any kind of support, either be it in the form of providing immovable property, which in this case is basically the accommodation or the garages or the houses where these spaza shops are being run. What it means is that it becomes a serious offense, criminally and also in terms of the Immigration Act. Section 42 clearly stipulates that no one should aid, no one should abet, no one should assist a foreigner or an illegal foreigner during this process. So what it means is that those who are found, South Africans that are found, assisting, fronting, like what Honorable Tlhabisa have just said, assisting, fronting, presenting themselves to assist foreigners who don't deserve to form part of this process, they will be prosecuted and actions will be taken. And we are working closely with the municipalities. We are awaiting some of the information from the municipalities, like what Minister Tlhabisa have said, that during the processing, some of the information that links to those that are fronting will be forwarded to us as the Department of Home Affairs and also the police, so that we can act on that. So that is on that one. And it's a clear warning to South Africans that let the process be not interfered with, and let us not assist those that are not supposed to be assisted, because it's against the laws of this country and it's against the immigration laws of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Matsaong. General Mosigidi. Thank you very much, Nukwa, and a very good morning to the ministers and the DGs, members of the media. On the issues of the cases reported, we are handling a total of 32 cases to date, where 41 persons have died, 38 of whom are children and 3 are adults. In relation to the recent cases that has led to the team, we haven't had any arrests. We, however, do have 3 persons that were arrested and prosecuted. They are court going on poisoning related matters. These are the cases that were reported outside of this period of cases of September to November. The current cases are still under investigation, as you know, that the process of investigation will include the forensic reports and toxicology reports. We do have post-mortem reports in that regard, but there hasn't been any person that has been linked to this particular cases for a prosecution, and the matters are still ongoing in our courts. On the question that I've been requested to elaborate on the enforcement, as we speak, NAT Joints has been activated from the first week when this matter was established, and it's working on various work streams, of which the law enforcement is one of the work stream, is work stream 7, and a work stream 5 and work stream 6, it's intelligence collection that is assisting the law enforcement in matters that will require a deep dive in the law enforcement, in as far as the law enforcement is concerned. Ntate Matsaung has elaborated on some of the laws of the country that are being observed by the law enforcement team when they do the raids, and the enforcement team includes both the health workers, it includes municipalities, it includes the police, it includes the home affairs, and any other department, agricultural workers, and any other department that will find to be relevant to the enforcement to assist one another. I know the question will be, what will the police do on the issues of foodborne, as it is the health issues? But with what has been elaborated, Minister Hlabisa did indicate on the issues of enforcement, and during these raids, we'll also find people that might not be having proper documents to be in the country. Therefore, it is important that the presence of the police amongst the teams will also assist in making sure that the law is enforced, and those that need to be arrested are arrested. Confiscation of the goods is also being processed, including to ensure that the teams that are doing the inspections are also being safe and protected. And that is what our enforcement teams are doing. There was a question earlier on whether this will continue, the issue of the raids and enforcement will continue beyond this time. The enforcement ran concurrently with all other processes of registration and others, and it will continue because there are laws of the country that needs to be observed, and taking care of those laws, it means it needs enforcement. So all the departments that are relevant to enforce the law, including the police, home affairs, and others, will continue to do the enforcement in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Mosigito. We will now take Minister Mutsolet, who will come and respond to the health-related questions. Minister.
I think there's one clear question pertaining to health, the last one, which says, well, discontinuing training of environmental health practitioners. I don't know about such a circular at all. I think unless it's being confused with the issues of internship. Environmental health practitioners do a university degree. They are trained at universities like any other course, and the Department of Health does not interfere there, except maybe discussing with universities about the needs or like thereof. But the Department of Health cannot just say, there's no more training. It's a university degree, a 4-year degree, which is done in quite a number of universities. And the head of that Mangosuthu University of Technology is actually one of the experts we've put in the Ministerial Advisory Committee, because he is coordinating the training of all environmental health practitioners in the country. So we haven't stopped it. What might have been confusing people is a communication from the HPSA, the Health Professions Council of South Africa, about the issue of community service among environmental health practitioners. That one is being reviewed not only for environmental health practitioners, but even for doctors. We are busy reviewing it because the issue of community service arose at the time when many health workers were refusing or not willing to go to work in rural areas. And that is no longer the case. That's why it is being reviewed. So the issue of discontinuation of training instructed by the health department, it does not arise at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Motsoaledi. We'll hand over to Minister Hlabisa, who will also do the closing, because we're done with the questions. Minister?
Thank you very much. There was a question on, does the government have the capacity to ensure that the spaza shop and other food handling outlets are being registered in all 3 spheres of government? There is capacity. In South Africa, it's thousands of businesses registered, licensed through municipalities. The only thing is that the spaza shops and small food handling activities remained informal and not regulated. I think, therefore, if you can compare how many businesses in South Africa are registered, you will clearly conclude that it is a more number than the spaza shops. So the capacity of our municipalities is there. They will, and the extended time that is given must be sufficient. That is why we make a call that people must not start today and say this extension is not enough. You will hear them. From here they will say, oh, no. End of February is still not enough. Then, having not done anything, if you want, those who have registered, some will tell you, it only took me 3 hours and I was done because I came with all the documentation. Now, capacity is there. All people need to do, bring all your documents so that you do not take longer time before you are being registered. Is there a relationship between municipalities and the traditional and Khoisan leaders? Yesterday evening, we had a joint meeting with all 9 provinces, MECs for COGTA and Traditional Affairs, MECs responsible for economic development, SALCA, as well as the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders, represented by the National Chairperson, Khosi Siatlolo, together with the Deputy Chairperson, Inkosi Mahlangu. There is a good working relationship. In a period of 2 weeks, we will issue as COGTA, having worked together with the National House of Traditional Leaders, a clear guideline that will be a clear instruction or guidance to municipalities, because most of these spaza shops are in traditional communities under our traditional leaders. The relationship of how the process of a spaza shop, in order to be licensed by a municipality, must be done, because when a verification is done, the municipality will have to come through the traditional authority, because a spaza shop has a PTO under which it operates in a traditional community. So now there is a clear working relationship, but it is going to be more improved, because Khosi Siyahlolo yesterday raised this matter that we need to escalate the working relationship so that during verification time there will be a cooperation between the traditional authorities and municipalities. When it comes to how many people have died, I think what we can acknowledge is that the rising number of deaths, especially that was concerning us at most for our young children, has really come down. And that is what makes us pleased about the intervention, and that is what is going to make us to ensure that we do not go back to where we were, so that no more death. One will be too many, and as schools are closed, we are going to activate all systems and structures together with the Department of Education to be ready when the schools open, that all the tuck shops closer to the schools are registered and comply and have been visited. The law enforcing agencies, as the General has indicated, we will target schools in January before opening of schools. All the tuck shops around those places must have gone through the application process, and those that will be found not complying definitely will be shut down immediately. Can I share the stats now? I said I can respond, yes, I can share the statistics as follows. In Eastern Cape, there are 45 centers of registration throughout the province. 6,730 applications were received. 1,783 were approved and registered as we speak. In Free State, 69 centers throughout the province, 5,016 applications received, 879 approved. In Gauteng, 85 centers throughout the province, 2,605 applications received, 733 applications approved. In KwaZulu-Natal, 43 centers, 7,187 applications received, 749 approved. In Limpopo, 22 centers, 5,504 applications received, 4,223 applications approved. In Mpumalanga, 25 centers, 9,283 applications received, 7,263 applications approved. In Northern Cape, 26 centers around the country, 1,585 applications received, 611 applications approved. In Northwest, 18 centers across the country, 5,005 applications received. The province of Northwest, up to now, they are still tallying their figures. They had promised to give them in the morning. When we met yesterday evening, a confirmed figure has not come forth. Western Cape, there are 59 centers throughout the country. Western Cape could not give us how many applications have been received. They are still tallying the figures up until now. But the approved applications is 3,145, which makes a total of 19,386. I want to conclude by this point here. Many of the spaza shops that are operating will not apply because they are operated by people who do not have documents to be in South Africa. So now we should not be worried or frightened by the fact that a number of them are not coming forward. It's because the people who are running them are not the people who are supposed to run them. And on this point, I want to conclude by saying, clearly, a call by, I'm not sure whether it was ENCA, that when are we going to see a process that gives quotas in spaza shop and food handling, that a certain portion before South Africans, if there is no foreign national who apply for a spaza shop, definitely there will be no need of putting a quota, because there will be no foreign national that is meeting the requirements to run a spaza shop or a food handling outlet. For instance, a foreign national, if you want to do business, you must demonstrate that you do have 5 million rand that you want to invest in a business that you want to run in South Africa. If you can't prove that, beyond proving 5 million rand, you must comply with SARS, you must comply with the residential proof of residence, comply with the banking credentials that you are really banking the money, it is not kept somewhere. Now, if you can't prove that you do have 5 million rand to invest, you can't apply for a business. So now the question of putting a quota will be irrelevant. That is why we are saying, yesterday evening we said to all provinces, the next figures must show us how many applications were done by foreign nationals and got approved, and which conditions they met, so that we make a closer look, so that we are not found wanting at the end of the day. The opportunity, as I conclude, there is 500 million rand, 500 million, which the government has put forward. This is an opportunity for small businesses in South Africa, the people of South Africa, to access this money. A person will only access this money once you have applied, you have been approved, you have been verified, you found compliant, you are given a license, and then you can start putting an application to the Department of Small Business Development to access this funding. One, to ensure that your place of work meet the requirement. The windows are at the required standard in terms of health regulation, the ventilation, the doors, the environment within the place where you will be operating meets the requirements in terms of the municipality and in terms of the Department of Health. And this is the money available for people of South Africa to once again go back to the village, township and rural economy, which was once at the hands of the South Africans and unfortunately no longer there now. Fronting will not work. Under whatever circumstances, the only opportunity, the people of South Africa must grab this opportunity, must go back and become part of the contributors in the economy of our country. I want to thank our officials, the general who is present, the minister, the people of the media, and the people of South Africa for having heeded the call by the president. This is the time to formalize the economy that has been informal. This is the time to take back this economy to the hands of people of South Africa. We want to thank the cooperation of not taking the law to their hands. They are responsible organs of state to enforce the law. They will do so, and they are ready to do so, and they are doing so. The people of goodwill in South Africa must carry on supporting this good cause. Go and register, participate in the small business economy, be part of rebuilding our community. Let us not take law into our hands. The relevant organs of state will play their role. Thank you very much. We do want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. It has been an exhaustive year of a rigorous election campaign, the formation of a new government, and what is pleasing, the government of national unity is at work. Take time to rest, recharge, share love with your family after a heavy year so that you come back and rebuild, contribute in rebuilding South Africa, especially the media. You shape our society. If you allow us to communicate, you make people informed to know what happens. And we want to appreciate what you are doing. Keep on doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ministers, the executives from government, the members of the media and the public. The media briefing session is adjourned. Thank you so much.